I know I make a fair few references back to the presidential debates, so just bear with me on this one. Joe Biden said, you know what? Another 100,000 people are going to die before the end of the year if proper action doesn't get taken. And I guess that was a promise, and the action that needed to be taken was for him to be president, because in his first full month in office, a shade under less than 250 people, shy of 100,000 people have died from COVID, a disease that is over a year old at this point. These are fantastic numbers. He really got to work on, the declining death statistics. And, really pumped up those rookie numbers. Nearly 100,000 people in the United States died from the Chinese, we'll just call it the Kung Flu. During President Joe Biden's first month in office, an estimated 99,763 people in the United States have died due to complications from the coronavirus during Joe Biden's first month in the White House, according to statistics provided by Johns Hopkins University. See that, YouTube? Johns Hopkins University. We can take a look at those statistics if you'd like. God, Lord have mercy. It's been a long time since I've been on this map. I used to check it fairly regularly, a fucking year ago. And as we can see here, it shan't be too long before the United States crosses 500,000 people. So keep up the good work, Joe. You're doing the Lord's work. When Biden first took office, the nationwide coronavirus death toll was 397,611. Just 1 month later, the number is on the cusp of 500,000. We just seen that. There's nothing we can do to change the trajectory of this pandemic in the next several months. So anticipate another 100,000 people dead. Is that what we're going to be going with for the month of February? I guess we'll have to check back in on the, 21st of March. But to be fair to Joe, he is making a couple of little adjustments along the way. Just because he said last month that there's nothing you can do to change the trajectory, well, there are a couple other things that you can put in place. Everybody knows his love of masks, and it extends beyond even getting yourself vaccinated, because as you can see, Joe Biden at Pfizer plant, keep wearing a mask after you get vaccinated. How about no? There is no science to prove that asymptomatic spread is a thing, okay? Let's just stop calling these people asymptomatic. They're called healthy. How about that? President Joe Biden told Americans they should keep wearing a mask even after they get vaccinated from the coronavirus. Before you get the shot and after, if you get the shot and after, oh my God, did he get stuck in a loop? Social distancing saves lives. Wearing masks saves lives. Well, if you can't get the disease after you're vaccinated, isn't that saving the life? I don't get it. I don't think he even knows what he's saying. Making sure that you wash your hands with hot water saves lives. Use that no more tear shampoo because it makes your hands smell really good. Wearing a double mask, as he touted from the Pfizer plant, he was also there. He was being accompanied by Gretchen Whitmer. Ugh. President reassured Americans that the vaccines were safe. Yeah, they're really safe if you're over the age of 55. People get ill. People get confused. Something he knows firsthand. There's a lot of people who aren't able. My little oh, here he goes off on one of his fucking tangents. Just a sign of Alzheimer's, by the way, if you can't keep on a coherent track. I don't want to hear any of your back talk on that. Can use a cell phone of hers to do more in about 12 seconds than I can do in an hour. He's in charge of a country, people. The most powerful country on earth. So that comes straight from the horse's ass. How about top doctor, everybody's good friend, Dr. Anthony Fauci? What does he have to say about this? What has he flip-flopped on? Because he was for double masking, and then he was against it. And then he's for it again, because I think he gets a kick out of telling people what to do. That could also just be a doctor thing too, I'm not too sure, but that's just my thoughts. How about wearing masks and social distancing until 20...
have suggested that we'll approach...
God, that creepy bitch freaked me out. Dana Bash has the longest face on cable news. Like, it's great Mr. Ed is still getting work after all these years. And I don't think that there's anything more in life than Anthony Fauci loves than just getting in front of a camera. After he's all said and done with this COVID shit, I think he's just working on the details of finalizing, getting some kind of a cable slot on the CNN or MSNBC. I would bet money that he's going to have Dr. Hour after his services are no longer needed. But yeah, wearing masks until 2022 to protect against COVID-19. Why? If everybody's vaccinated or if everybody has the antibodies. Is it because masks work? Well, 100,000 people have died. And all of your blue states are the ones that are getting shit on hardest. And they all have the strictest mask mandates. It doesn't seem to be working. I don't know. And speaking of those blue states, we briefly touched on, actually made an entire video, so it wasn't really briefly touched on. It was fairly comprehensively covered that Andrew Cuomo, King of New York, covered up by just about 3 times the amount of actual deaths that are happening in his state. And the most he was going to face was probably a slap on the wrist, and his emergency powers were going to get rescinded. And something that I've said consistently, and something I've given praise to Democrats for, is that they really rally around themselves. They never, ever allow the right or the centrists out there to really attack them effectively. Like you guys remember, a couple years ago, Ralph Northam, governor of Virginia, he had that blackface scandal, not nearly as bad as Justin Trudeau's, by the way, but he had the old yearbook with him in blackface and another picture as well. And he was under heat for a minute, and then his lieutenant governor also had similar pictures come out as well. And they're still in charge. Now, they're going to be up for election this year, and who knows if they actually stand a chance, because Virginia's starting to shift over, because Northam was trying to put in very comprehensive gun control legislation, and it ended up biting him in the ass because a bunch of the cities wanted to declare themselves Second Amendment sanctuary cities that wouldn't allow any of the enforcement of those curtails of the Second Amendment. And it was starting to get really, really untenable for Northam and his administration. And then COVID hit with all the pandemics. And then, of course, like every other blue governor out there, he just seized control of all the power that he possibly could. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. But I haven't heard any pushback on him since then. And then we talked about what Gavin Newsom's going to be facing, okay? Looks like he's going to be facing a recall. It looks like that petition is going to be wildly successful. They probably will break or get right up to 2 million signatures in order to force a recall and an election this November. Now, the Democrats are also going to enforce signature checks. Very funny how signature checks show up whenever it affects a Democrat, but the party is very good at looking after their own. Something I commend them for, definitely. And then going back up to Cuomo, even Psaki and the Biden administration won't do anything to condemn what Cuomo did. So it's almost like they all knew if they could just keep all of their numbers hidden, if they could just keep everything locked down until all the dust settled after the election, they could come out with the real information, because everybody figured that they were suppressing it, or at least not being on the level with their constituents and all of the citizens of the United States. Then they could just kind of release it under the cover of night, how the Democrats like to do all of their business, and nobody will really raise a fuss about it. Like, okay, the Post ran an article on it, and they've been pretty hard on Cuomo so far, but they also went pretty hard on Hunter Biden, and where did that get them? Suspended, and that Hunter Biden story effectively suppressed, because nobody's talking about that anymore. It's still a thing. The FBI is still investigating it, but then again, they're still investigating the Las Vegas shooter, so. But then again, I do trust the FBI, because we know everybody that was involved with the JFK assassination, right? White House refuses to condemn Cuomo's fatal decisions to put COVID-positive patients in nursing homes. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki on Sunday refused to condemn New York Governor Andrew Cuomo's fatal policy that sent patients infected with COVID-19 back into long-term care facilities in close contact with the most COVID-vulnerable population during the height of the pandemic, while New York State Attorney General Lolita James found that Cuomo, his administration, and the state's health department severely undercounted the number of COVID-related deaths in the nursing homes by as much as 50%. It's getting closer to about 2/3 there, lady. And his top aide admitted, yes, we covered that, and the state's top office purposefully hid the nursing home's COVID-19 death toll out of fear of a federal investigation. Psaki still defended him. Does Joe Biden still consider Andrew Cuomo the gold standard when it comes to leadership of the pandemic? The ABC News' This Week host John Carl asked after playing a clip of Biden in 2020 praising Cuomo's COVID-19 response, because remember, at that time, he was just putting out that book, American Leadership, and how to be a great leader during the COVID-19 pandemic. You know how you do it, according to Cuomo? You lie, and just have a D at the end of your name, and you'll never have to face any consequences. And that seems to be holding true. Here was Psaki's response. We work with Governor Cuomo just like we work with governors across the country. He plays an important role in ensuring that we're coordinating closely and getting assistance out of people in the state and to states across the country, and will continue to do that. Well, could you circle back to answering that question? The appropriate law enforcement authorities to determine how the path is going to move as we look forward. So Carl tried to get her to answer his questions like, can you just condemn this moron because he really fucked up? Well, it doesn't always have to be a yes or no answer, John. I think the president is focused on his goals, his objectives as president of the United States. Oh my God. Okay, when you're president, you're supposed to be president for everybody. Another thing Joe Biden said repeatedly, I just won't be a president for my Democratic constituents, not just for the people who voted for me. I'm going to be a president for all Americans. But what is he focusing on doing? His agenda, his goals. He doesn't care about not just the 75 million Trump voters, but everybody who didn't directly influence him in his very tight cabal of people who fortified his victories. That's the only people he cares about. And Psaki will keep going on these shows. She'll keep holding those press conferences. She'll promise to circle back around and eventually get back to you on that one. Meanwhile, running cover for Biden, for Cuomo, for Newsom, for Northam, for Scott, for Murphy, for Whitmer, for everybody. They don't care about you. It's a big club and you ain't in it. Democrats are not your friends. And we got one more story to throw into this entire Biden schmoz because it's been a minute since we circled back and talked about the administration and how I don't want to overplay my hand by saying that it's a massive failure so far. I think that that's being a little unfair. It's only been a month, but there hasn't been anything that he's done that's really inspired me to change my opinion on him. Like, I think Joe's a fine person, okay? Because there's fine people on both sides. Like, outside of politics, I think probably like 20 years ago, he would have been a fine person to hang out with. Like Cuomo too. I think he's probably a total pisser. But his policies, and the more I see Biden just repeat the exact same stuff that he gets fed from his handlers over and over again, the less I like him, because he's just being a leftist puppet. We could go over all the quotes, all of the executive orders, everything that he has done and hasn't done, all of the slights that he's cast against the former administration, giving them no credit for their leadership, giving them no credit for setting up the guardrails, or even thanking them for doing a much better job handling the pandemic that they did and giving them a roadmap in order to achieve some sort of a success. Nah, we're just going to do it our way and then just keep pushing off a return to normalcy further and further into the future. That is just going to mean a much larger victory in 2022, because if you guys would just hurry up and get over all of this double masking, all of these terrible mask mandates, and whatever else you're planning, people might forget how terrible the first month in office was. 100,000 people almost dying. You can get to your policies. They suck. We've been over them a bunch. Maybe you could just energize the Democratic base and that'll be enough. Because there is nothing Biden is doing right now that is reaching across the aisle and helping out Republicans in need, specifically in Texas. I have a few fans on this channel that are down there in Texas. Fans. Ugh, I hate saying that. Sorry I said that. A bunch of people that I talk to. That sounds incredibly pretentious. Friends. Friends is much better. I like talking with you guys down there, okay? And it's been a motherfucker of a week for them. Okay, getting a foot of snow or just about 2 feet of snow down there in Texas is way different than 2 feet of snow up here. Like, we can deal with it. It's been anywhere between 30 and 50 below for the past 2 weeks, but yesterday and today we're right around freezing, and the water is a-flowing. But Texas isn't built for that. They don't have the infrastructure to deal with it, and it's showing. And a lot of people down there are doing a bunch of good work to make sure that that situation gets remedied as fast as possible. And I can't count Biden among those. Okay, when we talked about Ted Cruz jetting off to Cancun, it wasn't a good look, but what could he actually do? He was down there handing out crates of water. That's the last thing that I seen there. It's like, that's about the best he could do, okay? Make a couple of phone calls, probably get some tractor trailers filled with bottled water down there. Cool, that's definitely helping. And even Biden, look at this headline, and then we'll get a couple of paragraphs in, and it is vastly different. Biden approves disaster declaration for Texas. That should be a great thing, okay? President Joe Biden approved a major disaster declaration for Texas as the state remained locked in the throes of a days-long freeze, a little better than a week now, come on. That has crippled power and water systems and affected millions of lives. Yes, 4 million people without power, still outages of water, which is atrocious, and slowly people are getting back on the power grid. Biden approved the disaster declaration for Texas on Friday after he spoke with Governor Abbott about the situation in the state. Okay. That was his first phone call to Texas. Friday. How long have you guys been without heat and electricity? Disgusting. Remember when Trump got shit on for shit that happened in fucking Puerto Rico? He was actually on the hop But that mayor fucking bitched and moaned and oversold her situation and flat out lied about Trump's response. She eventually got caught with corruption charges about a year ago. That just kind of went under the radar as well. And I wasn't covering that story at the time because I didn't have a channel at the time. But this is just slipped in there oh so slyly. Meanwhile, Texas has been in a state of emergency for the better part of a fucking week. And you just make it your last phone call of the day? Oh well, they didn't vote for you, so who cares about that, right? Abbott, though, said in a release later Saturday that Biden only partially approved Texas's call for a declaration for all 254 counties for both individual and public assistance. Biden approved the public assistance for every county. That's good. But only assistance for individuals affected in 77 counties. Can you fucking believe that? They need help. They need a lot of help. They need all the help that they can get. They need federal help. They need FEMA to come down there. Okay? There's only so much the National Guard in Texas can do. This is the type of help the federal government is allowed to give and what they have access to. But Biden thinks, 77 counties, that's all that's needed. While this partial approval is an important first step, Texas will continue to work with our federal partners to ensure all eligible Texans have access to the relief they need. The funds provided under the Major Disaster Declaration may provide crucial assistance to Texans as they begin to repair their homes and address property damage. That right there should be a scandal on the same level as what happened with Katrina. Honestly, most of you guys probably remember the backlash and all the shit that Bush took for one city, for one fucking city. We don't know how much damage. We know that nearly 24 people have died because of this. We don't know how many millions of dollars in property damage. Potentially billions of dollars will be needed to be spent in order to return everything back to normal. But nah, he's not catching any shit for this. In fact, the Washington Post is praising him for authorizing help in 77 counties. Biden has one praise for low-key approach to Texas disaster. I don't know how you spin that. I don't know how you write that and think anybody's going to take you seriously. That is the Washington Post after all. But my God, he is setting himself up for a defeat that will make Jimmy Carter blush. And I know that doesn't help anybody in Texas right now. And that disgusts me in a way that makes me want to rage. But I know that won't help literally anybody. But all of those states that have been affected, because it's not just Texas. North Carolina felt it too. They had a fucking winter tornado that ran through their state. Are they getting any help? No, they narrowly voted for Trump. Don't hear anything about that. Texas is getting all the coverage right now, duly so. But what about Florida? Nah, Biden's just trying to wall off the state because they won't adhere to his draconian mask mandates. What about Louisiana? What about Alabama? What about the next time a hurricane runs through there? Any of those red states, you think they're going to get any assistance promptly? Nah, highly fucking doubtful. Biden is looking out for himself and his major metropolitan cities, and he's going to be allowed to do it. Cuomo's going to be allowed to govern as he sees fit. And by fit, I mean knock off old people left, right, and center. They don't care about you, and the media will run coverage on them, telling you how great they're doing. Meanwhile, not dispensing the facts. Not telling you that Governor Greg Abbott asked for assistance in 254 counties and received individual assistance in 77. I'd love to see which 77 counties got the assistance. I bet you it's all around Houston, it's all around Dallas, it's all around Austin, and it's all around San Antonio. I bet you it's those ones that are going to get taken care of because they voted blue heavily. Disgusting human being. I can't fucking believe that. If building back better means crushing your political opponents, I hope you guys remember this stuff because they can only gaslight the public for so long. We've got to move on to what some celebrities are saying right now because at least them you can kind of hand wave away their fucking insanity. But this is systemic and this is wrong. This is wrong. This is corrupt and it won't be forgotten. I thank you all very much for the gift of your time. And if you're down there in any of those affected states, stay safe, stay strong. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.